I have started on this path about 1 year ago with great enthusiasm, but I now feel a bit disheartened. It seems to me that the more I practice ātma-vicāra, the worse I feel about myself, because I feel that I am getting swayed more and more by vasanas. It is starting to feel that I'm fighting a losing battle and that my will is not becoming more pure. Also, because I am more painfully aware of how bad I really am, I tend to get easily overcome by guilt and despair. I know I should patiently persevere and not worry about such things, but I'm not always able to. I would love to hear your advice on this. Thank you so much. And I apologize for this long question.
No problem. That is, we are all being swayed by our Vishaya vasanas all the time. So long as our mind is very outward going, we are so interested in the external things, we don't notice how we are being swayed by our Vishaya vasanas. When we begin to follow this path of turning our attention within, then it becomes more and more clear to us how we are being, all the outward going movements of our mind are all under the sway of our Vishaya vasanas. So naturally, as we go deeper in this path, we become more and more aware, more and more painfully aware of how we so easily allow ourselves to be swayed by our Vishaya vasanas. Why do we allow ourselves to be swayed by our Vishaya vasanas? Because our Vishaya vasanas are our likings. We like to be swayed, that is, we like to be swayed by our Vishaya vasanas. So this path is not a path for the faint-hearted. This is a path that requires all-consuming dedication. That is, for countless lives, for crores of janmas, we have been allowing our attention to flow outwards, and thereby we've been cultivating and strengthening these Vishaya vasanas. So we are now, when we begin this path of self-investigation, we are undoing the work of many lifetimes. The wealth of Vishaya vasanas that we have been accumulating, we are now trying to divest ourselves of all this huge wealth. If you've got huge wealth, it's not very easy to get rid of it. So we've got a huge wealth of Vishaya vasanas. We are trying to shed that wealth of Vishaya vasanas by clinging to the true wealth, which is awareness that is shining in our heart as I. Let us not be discouraged. Sadhu gave a very nice analogy in this context. If you see a crescent moon, you can't see any craters in it. Even if you see a half moon, in a half moon, the craters are only very faintly seen. But as the moon gets fuller and fuller, the craters become more and more clear. Only in the full moon do you see the craters very clearly. Likewise with the mind. As the mind becomes more and more purified, we become more and more aware of the impurities. If you've got a very dirty cloth, if the whole cloth is dirty, you can't see the deeply rooted, the deeply embedded stains. If you wash the cloth once, you'll then remove the superficial dirt, then the more deeply embedded dirt will become more clear. So you have to wash it again, you have to wash it again, you have to wash it again until all the stains are removed. So how deeply rooted the stains are, you notice only by washing the cloth. Likewise, by this practice of self-investigation, we are washing the mind, we are purifying the mind. So the more we purify the mind, the more brightly the mind shines, so the more the craters in the mind are seen. Just like the craters on the moon become more visible as the moon becomes brighter, as the mind becomes purified and clarified by this practice of self-investigation, we become more and more clearly and painfully aware of all our imperfections. Read the poetry of great saints like Manikavaska, Sadhu, Murugana, Sadhu, such people. You will see they are, or even Bhagavan in our Access Duty Panchakam, he says he's the worst of the worst. They are not just saying that for our sake or anything. That is what, but any true spiritual aspirant will truly feel themselves to be the worst of the worst. So the more we recognize how worthless we are, how unfit we are for following this path, the more fit we are for following this path, the more we're truly following this path. So, of course, Bhagavan, when he sang Arunachal Stuti Panchakam, he was reflecting in those hymns the state of mind of a very, very advanced spiritual aspirant. Of course, he had already surrendered himself completely to Arunachala. When he sang, for example, O Sutrulam Vida Dunai Kandarangida Unara Hekata Arunachala. So that this mind which wanders about the world may subside, show me your beauty. Is Bhagavan's mind wandering all over the world? No, of course it's not. But he's reflecting there the state of mind of a true spiritual aspirant. A true spiritual aspirant will feel even the slightest movement of the attention away from oneself towards something else. That is a great ātma-vicāra, a great ātma-vicāra means it's a great wrong on our part to allow our attention to move away from ourselves. So it will seem to us our mind is just always wandering around the world. Even though the mind, as the mind gets purer, the impurities become more and more clear. So it is from that perspective that Bhagavan sang Arunachal Stuti Panchakam. So as we get more and more advanced in this path, we will become more and more painfully aware of our unworthiness. But that is very good, because the more we recognize our own unworthiness, the more humble we will become, the more subsided we will become. What is the most dangerous thing for a spiritual aspirant is praise. If people start praising us, it's very, very dangerous, because there's nothing ego likes more than praise and appreciation. Bhagavan says in one verse in Uludunapadu, even though all the Vedas are at one's fingertips, even though all the worlds are an ounce of straw, if one falls a prey to the vile courtesan, the vile prostitute of flattery, of praise, it's very difficult to free oneself from servitude to her, or something to that effect. So the most dangerous thing for a spiritual aspirant is to, when people praise us, Bhagavan says, those who abuse us, they're our real enemies, because who are they abusing? Who are they rebuking? They're rebuking or ridiculing or speaking ill of ego, which is our enemy. Who is our number one enemy? So ego itself. So if people speak disparagingly of us, that is very good for us. If people praise us, that is very, very dangerous. So that's a danger that we all face. What is the greatest protection against that? That is, it will happen sometimes. People not knowing how, we alone know how bad we are inside. In the eyes of others, we may appear to be, oh, he's a very great devotee and so on, but we know how unworthy we are. But by recognizing our own unworthiness, our own lack of fitness for this path, that is a great protection, because that protects us from this vile courtesan of flattery. However much people flatter us, it will not affect us if we clearly recognize how imperfect we are. So it's actually a great blessing from Bhagavan. The more we recognize our own unfitness for following this path, the more truly fit we are for following this path. So Bhagavan is protecting us by making us see how unworthy we are, because when we see how unworthy we are, doesn't matter how much people praise us, we know it may seem like that from their perspective, but we know the truth. We know how unfit we are, how unworthy we are of whatever praise we may receive. So this is a great blessing for us. So let us not be disheartened. That is, once we have started on this path, success is guaranteed. All that is required is perseverance. So long as we persevere in following this path, even if it seems to us that we're constantly failing, we keep on trying to attend to ourselves and our attention goes outwards. It seems that we sometimes we feel, I have no love at all for this self-attentiveness. What am I doing? I've come to Bhagavan, he's taught us all these things, and we are so convinced by what he says at the surface level of our mind. But deep down, we are still allowing our attention to go outwards. So we really haven't understood Bhagavan. The more we recognize that, the more we'll subside and subside and subside. And that's what subsiding is, following Bhagavan's path. Bhagavan's path is all about subsiding more and more and more. That is, the more we hold on to self-attentiveness, the more we thereby subside. And that is following Bhagavan's path. So however unworthy we may seem in our eyes, we have to just continue following this path. As Bhagavan says in the 10th paragraph of Nana, however great a sinner one may be, if instead of giving up, instead of lamenting and weeping, oh, I'm a great sinner, how can I be saved? If we are steadfast in this practice of self-attentiveness, we will surely be saved. And in the previous verse, he says, instead of giving room, without giving room to the doubting thought, is it possible to destroy so many vasanas, to remain as I actually am? It is necessary to vida sarupa dhyanate vida pidai pidikabendum. It is necessary to cling tenaciously to self-attentiveness. So let's not give room to feelings of guilt or unworthiness or anything. As Bhagavan said, don't even give room to the thought that one is a sinner. Hold on to self-attentiveness. That's all that is required. So let us not be discouraged by our own imperfections. However imperfect we may be, Bhagavan has drawn us to his feet. So, another nice thing Sadhu Om said. Bhagavan is the greatest doctor in the world, greatest spiritual doctor. If you go to the surgery of the greatest doctor in the world, what sort of patients will you find there? You won't find patients with cough and cold and minor ailments. You'll find only those patients whom all other doctors have given up on. If all other doctors have given up hope, then the last resort is to come to the greatest doctor. So we have come to Bhagavan because and all the other gurus have given us up as hopeless cases. So Bhagavan has taken us on. So those who are most fit to follow Bhagavan's path are those who are the most worthless cases, because he takes, as he says in one of the verses of Arunachaksharamlai, how can I, how can I survive after embracing you who have hoisted your flag to announce yourself as a killer of your devotee? That refers to, in old days, if someone was to do some philanthropy, if they were going to, say, feed all poor people or something, they would hoist a flag to announce on such and such a day poor people will be fed or something. So hoisting a flag is a way of announcing to do some philanthropy. So what is the philanthropy done by Arunachala? He's hoisted his flag to announce, I will kill my devotees. So Bhagavan is Arunachala in human form. So Bhagavan has hoisted his flag. Through his teachings, he's hoisted his flag to announce that he's the killer of his devotees. So having come to him, he's not going to spare us. We can try and escape, but he's not going to leave us. We have come to the greatest doctor in the world because we are the most critically serious, the most critically ill patients. So it doesn't matter how unworthy we are, he is certainly going to save us. But as he says, we will surely, as he says in the 12th paragraph of Nana, he will surely save us and will never forsake us. Nevertheless, Guru Kartya Varipadi Tavarada Nadikabendam. It's necessary to walk unfailingly according to the path shown by Guru. So we have to do our best to be self-attentive, leave everything else to him. Our salvation is assured, but we have to do our little bit. He will take care of everything else.